Welcome to Healthy Arts. Today we're going to be speaking about counting carbohydrates. And without any further ado, I'm going to hand you over to Alice. Thank you.
Okay, so today we are talking about carbohydrate counting. Some people are curious and some people already know what this is. But if we can just go through, we're here courtesy of Sahara Africa. Let's just remember that. Thank you. So let's just remind ourselves what carbohydrates are, and where they come from. So carbohydrates are found in your breads, all sorts of breads, white and brown. All your types of rice, brown, black, short grains, long grains, all your carbs come from here. Your carbohydrates also come from your beans, all types of beans, name it. Black, red, yellow, white, all types of beans. You get your carbs also from your cakes and sweets. All your cakes have loads and loads of carbohydrates. Your fruits also have got lots of carbohydrates. Some people think it's only in the starches, but you also get it in the fruit. Your juices are a whole load of carbohydrates, and we're just going to see examples, not just in a short while, how much carbohydrate is carbohydrate. Smoothies, you mix fruit, you mix with milk, you think you're getting away with it, you're still taking some carbohydrates. Your sweets, lots of carbohydrates. Your pastas, lots of carbohydrates. But dairy also has carbs, but not as much as the bread and the rice and the beans and the fruit, but it has a few carbs. So what you can actually say is low carb is actually your cheese and your oils. These are low carbs. All your meats and chicken, all these are low carb. All your fish is low carb. All your eggs are low carb. Some vegetables, not all, some vegetables have got low carbohydrates. So we're just not, and of course your oils and fats never have carbohydrates at all, and your nuts. So now that we've reminded ourselves where carbohydrate is, let's take an example. Like, what's the confusion? Most of the time, people are told that 1 gram of fat will give you 9 calories. So people tend to fear fat. And then your carbohydrates, 1 gram of carbohydrates will give you 4 calories, and 1 gram of proteins will give you 4 calories. So because of the calories per gram of these nutrients, because fat has a high calorie, so people tend to fear fat. And when you fear fat, then they eat more carbohydrates. And that's a problem. Also, the other confusion is we're supposed to have more carbohydrates in our diet. And this was a prescription of maybe 50, 60 years. And so we are supposed to have less protein and less fat in our diet. But carbohydrate is supposed to be the highest amount. But now let us just see what is. So we have your carbohydrates, like we've seen, come from your starches, your dairy, and your fruits. This is information that we give diabetic patients, but today we want to give everybody this information so that you can start to take care of yourself and prevent yourself from becoming diabetic. If you take a lot of carbohydrates, you're taking a lot of glucose, and you increase what we call your insulin response index. Every time we eat food, your body produces insulin to help this food, after it has become into sugar, get into the cells. But when you eat a lot of carbohydrates, your insulin response index is high. That means every time you eat a lot of carbohydrates, which is coming from your starches, your rice, your juices, your fruits, your sugar always rises way above normal. And with time, it means you have a risk of diabetes. So as long as you're eating high carbohydrate portions, our risk of diabetes is high. That's why this diabetes is here. So what has science found? Science has found that 5 grams of carbohydrates is approximately 1 teaspoon of sugar. That means carbohydrates are now being related to sugar because studies have shown that when you take a lot of carbohydrate, it has a huge impact on your blood sugar. And what is blood sugar? When you eat food, all the food becomes sugar, and this sugar is the main source of energy. So you can call it glucose or sugar. So this is the main source of energy. But now, because carbohydrates have such a high impact on sugar, carbohydrates have been translated into sugar. So literally, if we have one slice of bread, how much sugar are we having? And that's what I'm going to show you now. So remember, 5 grams of carbohydrates is 5 grams of carbohydrate weighs a teaspoon of sugar. So 5 grams is a teaspoon of sugar, in other words. So everything you're going to count, you're going to count according to sugar and teaspoon. So let's take an example. This is an illustration by Dr. Anwin, who is based in the UK. And what he showed here is that a serving of cornflakes will have about 30 grams of carbohydrate. But now, when we translate this into teaspoons of sugar, what does this literally mean? So it means that 30 grams of carbohydrates translate into 8.4 teaspoons of sugar. So if you have your small bowl of carbohydrates, you're taking 8.4 teaspoons of sugar. Just imagine that. 120 ml of milk will give you 1 teaspoon of sugar. Remember, I told you dairy has carbohydrates, but it's not as high. When you have 1 slice of bread, 1 slice of bread will give you about 30 grams of carbohydrates. That is 3 teaspoons of sugar. Pure apple juice. If you take 100% apple juice, just 200 ml, which is just a glass, that's going to give you 8.6 teaspoons of sugar. So it means this is what most people consider as a healthy breakfast. It's got cereal, it's got toast, it's got fruit juice. But how much sugar are we taking? Let's add it up. 8.4 plus 8.6, that is 17 teaspoons of sugar. Plus 3, 20 teaspoons of sugar. So in that breakfast alone, you have consumed 21 teaspoons of sugar. That's a really high amount of sugar. And this is definitely going to impact your blood sugar, which with time increases your risk of diabetes. So carbohydrates are defined as the next tobacco. So you can eat starch, you can eat your bread, you can eat your potatoes, you can eat any form of starch, but the question is how much of that are you having? So the more portions you have, the more sugar you have. So you can see every time you eat food, all the foods become sugar, but this is the rate at which the nutrients become sugar. When you take carbohydrates, remember your bread, your fruit, your rice, your potatoes, your pasta, 100% of it becomes sugar. So it always increases your blood sugar a lot more. The protein is at 30% and the fat is better. So this is an example of how much carbohydrates, how much sugar you literally get in so much rice. So this book is both in the UK, and I suggest that you get yourself a copy. Dr. Araba is going to share with you the link where you can purchase it. And it actually shows you. So this is just 100 grams of rice. And what you see here is in red. This is like your blood sugar. So for 100 grams of rice, you get yourself 6 teaspoons of sugar. But remember, this compares very well with brown rice. It's actually the same amount of sugar. Remember, so when starch is starch, the same amount of bread, the same amount of rice is going to give you the same amount of sugar. Yes, when it is whole, it is still more nutritious. It has more of the natural nutrients that you need, but the portions matter. So it doesn't matter when they tell you it's diabetic bread, it's still a carbohydrate. It's still going to give you so much sugar. So remember, the portions matter. So the bigger the portion you have on your plate, the more the sugar you're consuming. And if you're trying to lose weight and your carbohydrate intake is even at this level, and this is probably just one meal, then we are never going to lose weight. If you're diabetic and you're consuming so much carbohydrates, we are not going to be able to control our sugar. In fact, the more carbohydrates you take, the more your medication dosages increase. So let's go to bread. We have 1 slice of white bread, you get 4 teaspoons of sugar. 1 slice of brown bread, the same size, you get 3 teaspoons of sugar. It's always better to eat brown, but when it comes to portions, the portions still matter. So just 2 slices of bread is 7 teaspoons of sugar, so almost 8. If you round it off, the nearest 8. And I would like you to literally, when at the end of this session, just take teaspoons of sugar in a tall glass. Look at your plate. Estimate how much sugar you literally have by looking at the amount of carbohydrate you have, and put it in a tall glass and just look at it. Is that what you want for yourself? This is roti. It's common. Everybody eats it. Or chapati. Or just wheat, tortilla. 1 small one will give you 5 teaspoons of sugar. A piece of cake, plain cake. 1 small one will give you 7 teaspoons of sugar, almost 7 teaspoons of sugar. So, not sure how many people eat this, but this is cornmeal, stiff cornmeal. Just 175 grams will give you 10 teaspoons of sugar. That's a lot. So the more you have, the more sugar you get. But let's look at the meat. If you eat meat, chickens, and fish, how much carbohydrate you get? You get no carbohydrate. You get 0 carbohydrates. A little bit, but not too much. Of course, sweets, cakes, those ones already have sugar. So that's a lot of sugar. Even your fats, your cheeses, they don't have much. So what are we saying? Your bananas, your fruits will always have a lot of sugar as well. So we have to just control the portions. Juices, you'd rather always just eat a fruit and avoid juices. If you take juice, just 1 glass, you can see is 5 teaspoons of sugar. You don't want that every day you're taking just a glass with a meal. That's 3 glasses. 3 glasses times 5 teaspoons of sugar. That's 15 teaspoons of sugar in a day. So in a week, you're eating a lot of sugar. And you can imagine a few years from now, that explains why diabetes is on the increase. Vegetables have no 0 carbs. So fill that plate of yours with vegetables and take just very little carbohydrates. So I'm trying to take home message. Make an effort to reduce your carbohydrate intake. Help family to reduce carbs. So what you can do really, if you're in a WhatsApp group, start sharing your pictures. We find that when you share your pictures, you actually make an effort to eat healthy. But I want to give you a little quiz. So now that you are knowledgeable about carbohydrates, tell me, I'll show you a plate, you tell me whether it's a high carbohydrate or a low carbohydrate. And allow me to just pick a name so that you can say. So tell me, Dr. Araba, can you explain what this is, please?
So this is green plantain, boiled green plantain and a spinach sauce. Okay. Yeah.
So Karen, do you think this is a high carb? How many teaspoons of sugar do you think this is? This starch here.
I want to say few because I love plantain. But 6.
It's around that, 6, 7. But remember, this is a small portion. So do you think you should eat all that banana, or you can eat most of it and just 1 piece of this?
Just take 1 piece.
Yes, and actually when you reduce your carbohydrate intake, you literally reduce your budget for food as well. Because if you take more carbohydrates, then we spend more money. You take less, you spend less. How about this? Is this a low carbohydrate or a high carb? Elizabeth, your turn.
A low carbohydrate?
Yes, because it's got a little piece of bread there. Thank you very much. Not too bad. How about this? Who's next?
High carbohydrate.
Very high. Thank you. How about that?
Oh, God, that's very high because it's got 2 slices of bread. It hasn't got much vegetable.
It's very high. Thank you, Martha. It's a high carb, because especially when it is white bread. So 1 slice would give you like 4 teaspoons of sugar. So you have 2 slices, that's 8 teaspoons of sugar going down. And what are you most likely taking this burger with? Most of the time.
Chilled Coke.
Chips.
Chips. A chilled
Oh,
Coke.
so we haven't even counted the chips. I even forgot about the chips. So then you have chips, more carbohydrates. Maybe let's say a handful, we'll have another 5. So you already have 15. And then you have Coke. Oh my goodness. Don't you think that's just killing yourself softly? Marlene, is this a high carbohydrate or a low carbohydrate?
No, I'm saying, is it cabbage and rice?
Yes, it is cabbage. Yeah.
Okay, but because of the rice, it's high.
And the rice is a lot. And what's that on the side?
It's a tomato sauce, I think.
Okay, so yeah, that'll be high as well.
Yeah, it can be better. It's just we want to watch the portions of starches. How about this one?
It's just as if it's a low carbohydrate because it's a small amount of rice.
Haha.
That's what I think. Somebody else can.
It depending what's in the sauce.
Yeah, but you can see sometimes we can hide the rice from the sauce. This is a lot of rice here. This is a lot of rice here. And then the sauce, sometimes you put corn flour to make it thick. So then you have carbs. And then this is beetroot. Beetroot is one of the vegetables that has also got quite significant amount of carbs. So this person's really, the plate is a really healthy meal. There's color, you have lots of nutrients. But when you look at the carbohydrate content, it's high. This would probably be 15 teaspoons of sugar. How about that?
No.
Very low.
Very low. Yeah.
This is low. Probably no teaspoon or just a little. I see some beetroot's been hidden there, so that's okay. Maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons of sugar. So always have very few carbohydrates, like a small portion of carbohydrate, more vegetable in your diet. If you're already having any constipation, you will manage that. If you're having any indigestion issues, you'll manage that. If you have diabetes, you'll start to reduce your dosages of diabetes. If you have high cholesterol, it's just gonna drop like a joke. So this is a reminder, genes load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. All of us, we have genes for various conditions, diabetes, hypertension, but it's the lifestyle that pulls the trigger. It's your lifestyle. So today we've talked about carbohydrates. How much are you eating? Just identify that, take pictures, share with friends. That will help you to reduce your carbohydrate intake. I saved some time for questions, so I'll take questions. Thank you very much.
One of the last plates just show with about a salad and tomatoes and all of that. No, that can be very healthy and low in calories, but a lot of people tend to put mayonnaise and all these things, and that defeat the object. So that is very, very confusing. If you might have a plate of salad, but if you start to put ketchup and mayonnaise and whatever people do, like with the fish and chips and all of that, it's going to defeat the healthy eating. Wouldn't that be so?
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for pointing that out. But looking at nutrition and having been in this field for 20 years plus, sometimes I'm a bit lenient. It is better to have a teaspoon or a tablespoon of mayo in your salad than to have 2 slices of extra bread. That's more dangerous for you. So we have to look at it in a whole cycle. Of course, occasionally you can have mayo, but it's always better to have to have dressing using, like plain oil rather than mayo, which has maybe a lot of yolk. but it depends on how often you use this. If on a Saturday you have a treat, you have a salad, you have with mayo, there's no problem. But if every day you're taking mayo, that's a problem. Also remember, sometimes people take vinegar for salad. I had a patient who ended up having acidity issues. They even get fits. When they're in hospital, they don't have acidity. When they come home, they have severe acidity. And so he was wondering what's causing his acidity. And he tracked me down. And you know, every lunchtime, he takes a salad with vinegar. So he builds up his acid levels every day because he's trying to eat healthy. So we need to, sometimes you have to ask. And this person ended up having fits of fits, literal fits because of having high acidity. And so he had to stop taking that. So you can use any dressing that works for you, but it's always how much and how often. Olive oil you can use every day. Mayo, not every day. Acid-based dressing, not every day. Yes, thank you very much, Paul. That was a good comment.
Can I add something also? At the beginning, you said almost everything that we eat, it's got carbs in it. Or if it doesn't have carbs in it, like fruits, it turns from carbs into sugar. So it is extremely difficult to have the discipline to get rid of carbs out of your diet if almost everything you eat will have carbs in it. Or how do you combat that?
You can't get rid of carbohydrate in your diet. You need to have a balance. You need to have some carbohydrates because they also provide you with your B vitamins and various other nutrients. So you can have but a little in your diet. So instead of having 4 slices of bread, a slice or 2 slices of bread would do. And then you're always better off always using the naturally whole grains. For example, I eat more beans than rice. So I'll have my beans and my vegetables. I'll have my beans and meat. If you have beans and rice or bananas and cooked bananas and beans, that's a whole load of carbohydrate. But if you have beans and some vegetables, and then banana and some vegetables, that's better. And if you just look at the plates that we have shown, you can have smaller portions. And remember that because the carb is everywhere, it means most of the time you can meet your carbohydrate intake by just having a small portion of your starches. Yes. Hiba, what do you think?
For those of us from West Africa, I know Ghana, Nigeria, we are used to a particular way of eating. I mean, it doesn't mean we can't change, but you know, when you talk about, when you say bananas, we call it plantain. We eat plantain, we eat beans. And then we actually add something we call gari. I don't know if you know gari, Alice. So, you know, it's even when we are eating our rice, we just have just a little bit of vegetables for decoration. That's what we do in Ghana, you know. So it's I mean, this presentation is an eye opener. I hope people have taken in a lot. People think that when you cut down on the carbs, you will not get full. I mean, that's the mentality most of us have. If I'm eating just one slice of bread or just one slice of that plantain I showed you, I'm not going to get full. But then it's not the case. It's just, you know, something we have in our minds. You know, we can work together and slowly start changing our dietary behaviors.
Hiba, can I say something?
Yes, Carol.
I just wanted to show something that might be handy to help with portion sizes. It's a plate.
Okay.
And it's one of those that you can get online. And as you can see, it's marked. So this quarter of the plate is for your protein foods like chicken or fish or beans. Then this other quarter is for your carbohydrates like rice or potato or pasta. And then the other half would have your vegetables and fruit or whatever. So when you're serving yourself, you have that in mind. You sort of divide your plate in that way so that a quarter is protein, a quarter is carbs, and then half is fruit and veg. And that really helps with like bringing down the portion size. I've found like people that I've recommended use this find it helpful in like bringing down, because the temptation to put rice like half
Ah,
rice,
okay, it's high.
chicken, and then just a tiny square of veg. When you have the plate marked, it sort of helps.
Helps.
Yeah.
It helps.
Very good. I
Thank
even
you.
had the plate here, but now I don't need to show it.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
so portions count. Just remember, it's your